And so the implication then is that, well, one, this isn't very intelligent, so personal intelligence is a misnomer, but also that they're failing to get quality results in their experiments. And is
That's
that
what it
true?
sounds like. That's well, they haven't said it, they haven't spelled it out, right? But that's the only reason you would not hold it, you would not release it, is you're not getting good, reliable results.
Okay. So, welcome to Practical AI, everybody. My name's Jeff. I'm here with Peter Lynn. Practical AI is brought to you by Pocket AI. Pocket AI is a tool you can use to edit the weights of your model. With Pocket AI, you can prune over 60% of the weights in your model while increasing accuracy. Peter, today we wanted to talk a little bit about Apple. Apple has been, I wouldn't say out of the AI game, but they're not bragging about building giant LLM monoliths, and they're not doing that, right?
Right.
But they're obviously a pretty well put together company, and they're doing something. And several months ago, they announced this whole approach to personalized AI, essentially,
Right.
where they're letting the other companies do the LLMs and do the behemoths while they're focusing on what makes you tick and how to make your iPhone perfect for you and
Right.
present the best restaurants that you like to eat at and find in your contacts the person's name that they know you're searching for, all that type of stuff. However, they've run into a snag. What happened this week with Apple?
So they basically said they're delaying indefinitely the so they didn't call it AI, they call it their personal intelligence, right? Because the whole focus is to personalize the language models to you. So it's not a generic one. It's one specific to you and your needs and your interests and your habits. Yeah. Basically, they said they're not going to roll it out because it's not ready.
Okay. So one of the things that is sort of relevant to this discussion, I think, is the concept we've talked about before, and that's RAG. And we think that they're using a RAG approach to get to a personalization. Um, Explain to us again what RAG is and where it plays into this discussion and what Apple's trying to do.
Yeah. So RAG is just prompt engineering. So just that's the most basic is you basically you stuff the prompt with all the stuff you want it to reason over or look at. So you say, all right, if you ask it for, I want to call Bob, for example, I want to call Dick. Well, so okay, those are common nicknames for Richard or for Robert. Let's say you've got a huge contact list and you've got like four people that are named Richards and you've got 10 that are named Robert. Well, which one is the one you call Bob, right? That's something that's specific to you and only you and not someone else.
So where RAG comes in or prompt engineering comes in is you're saying that what Apple likely is doing is they might be sort of preloading or able to quickly load the
Yep.
context window, build up the prompt engineering so that when you say find Bob, it
Yep.
adds in a bunch of other things for context purposes, and then it can quickly find it's got to be Bob, the Bob we all know. Of course, it's Bob, right? And then
Yep.
it returns that. Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. So where do you think they got tripped up here then? What's going on?
Well, it's the same problem that everyone else has, which is you can give a language model the facts you want to reason over, but it's all hallucinations anyways. So the problem is, can you produce results consistently at a high bar? And the answer is no, because no one has solved that problem. Hallucinations are hallucinations.
It's basically just finishing sentences, so it doesn't actually know who Bob is. It's just giving you its best hallucination.
Yep.
And so the implication then is that, well, one, this isn't very intelligent, so personal intelligence is a misnomer, but also that they're failing to get quality results in their experiments. And is
That's what
that
it
true?
sounds like. That's well, they haven't said it, they haven't spelled it out, right? But that's the only reason you would not hold it, you would not release it, is you're not getting good, reliable results.
Okay. So essentially, what they're trying to build here is your own personal Anakin's C3PO, right? So it's like
Yep.
some dude that follows you around and knows exactly because they've been around with you forever. So if I'm want to find a nice restaurant for my wife, they would know that my wife and I like to eat a certain way, and our search history and where we've given reviews and maybe even where we've spent credit card debt or whatever, right? So they have all that information and then they can suggest a better restaurant. Um, in your best guess, how would you pull that off sort of technically? Like what's going on behind the scenes? Is there one big sort of behemoth LLM back there that's doing stuff? Or are there many models that are associated with different functions or different apps inside your phone? What do you think they're doing?
So it's the same thing that everyone's doing on Hugging Face, which is you take a language model and then you refine it with the data set, right? So you might have one for contacts. There might be one for sports, if you're a sports fan. Like if you're a basketball fan, you could train a model that's just all about basketball, the NBA and the college, like, or if you're into football, you would train a model on football. If you're into cars, one on cars. So the idea is you would refine all these models on specific topics, and then when you ask it a question, it can then go to the cloud and use that version of the model and then feed in your personal data. So your texts, your social media posts, anything related to football, it would send in the prompt to the larger model. Larger model would do its thing and spit back a result. So
Okay,
that way,
so let me just stop you there. So essentially, there's sort of two big things happening here. One is you've got a series of models in the cloud that are being refined for specific things, right? Things that people would be interested to have personalized from their iPhone.
yep,
And then you've got the context window, the prompt engineering thing that's going on your iPhone. And the marriage of those two is essentially this personalized dream. Is that accurate? Okay.
that's how it's done today. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any other way to do this? Like, could they, why don't they just have a mega LLM on their phone and just have that constantly, like, why do they have to go up into the cloud?
Well, the main reason is even if you take the 8 billion model, you can't run that on an iPhone and have it run fast. You
Got it.
can quantize it down to 4 bits and it might run, but it's going to run slow. So most humans like myself are we're impatient. You don't want to ask it a question and wait 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. You want to ask it and it gives you an answer immediately. You don't want to ask it a question and be wondering oh, why is it not responding? And if you're driving and you say, hey, I'm hungry, find me a restaurant, right? That's a totally reasonable prompt. If you're
Yeah.
driving with your significant other, your husband or wife, they would know, oh, yeah, let's go find a Mexican place because we both love Mexican. So
Yeah.
that person would bring up their phone and you're like, okay, Mexican. But if you ask an agent like Siri, well, it needs to know what you like. Like if it recommends McDonald's and you hate McDonald's, that's just going to annoy you.
Yeah. Right. Right. So the models, the big models are too big. They can't run on iPhone, so it has to be cloud based until some other technology breakthrough comes through.
Yep.
But even then, they're probably running into hallucinations that aren't reliable, essentially.
Right. Yeah. So really, what you need to do is you need to be able to analyze the model. You need to be able to remove all the noise, or as much noise as possible, and you need to prune it down so it's less than a billion parameters for it to run fast on the iPhone. And
Well,
that's
and
how
it
you.
has to be constantly learning, right? It has to, when you get pissed at the recommendation, that has to build your WAG context window, right?
Right. So you could build a smaller model that then is able to then figure out how to prompt engineer and send that to the bigger model.
Got it. Well, it's kind of disappointing because, Apple has been kind of, I don't know, sitting this one out is kind of what the way I look at it. You know that they're doing something, right? And that they're
Right.
not around. And now with DeepSeek and Manus AI, they're probably like, they're tinkering in their little labs somewhere. But it would be fun to see something new. And Apple seems like it's overdue to deliver something that is cool in the AI space.
Right. Yeah, I think because Apple sets their bar really high, right? Like when you look at the iPhone, right? they were working on that for I think 8 years before they released it. Like most companies would not have the resources to spend 8 years on an iPhone,
Yeah.
but Apple is notorious for like they won't release it until it reaches a certain bar, and the bar is really high. Like
Yeah.
most companies be like, okay, this kind of sort of works. It's buggy, but yeah, let's release it because we need some revenue. But Apple's the opposite. Apple's like, okay, well, the iPhone started as a tablet, and the Steve Jobs said, well, this needs to be a phone. So then they took a tablet and shrunk it down, and then they spent 2 years trying to get the typing right. Right. So there's a famous story up on YouTube about the typing was not working, and so then they said, all right, everyone stop. Everyone's gonna write a keyboard app, and we're gonna pick the best one. Was what they did.
Got a code challenge.
They did literally. So like everyone in that team wrote a keyboard app until they found one that worked. And then finally Steve Jobs tried and he's like, yes, this is how it should work. Because before that, you would try to press, like a key, but it would misregister because if your finger wasn't exactly over A, it was between A and S, you might pick S half the time. And so the keyboard had to be able to go, no, okay, yeah, you're typing this word, and therefore the correct letter is A. It's not S.
Yeah.
And so the keyboard, even though we take it for granted, actually has a lot of predictive things built into it, so it types correctly.
And this is the high bar that they have for their AI solution too. Well, in the end, we'll be better served with it, but it is disappointing not having something out that we can see from Apple. But rest assured, it's probably coming at some point if and only if
They
they
solve
can
it.
stay ahead of this rapid pace of change in the AI space, which seems like the pages are turning rapidly now. So
Yeah, yeah.
who knows? All right, Peter. Thanks for the personalized AI or personalized intelligence discussion from Apple, and hopefully they can pick up the speed here a little bit and deliver something. You can be sure to follow us on Spotify. Remember that. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them here, and we will respond. We'll be back next time with a new discussion topic. Take care, everybody.